Welcome to this edition of MTGA Tasting Notes. This session, we're going to dive into our 2018 dry Riesling, something that was a part of arguably the most hectic growing season and harvest that we had ever. It was quite an interesting year, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But the backstory behind this wine is, number one, we've been making dry Riesling since 2013. We've been doing it for a few years up to this point. And unfortunately, the first vineyard site that we were working with, that ended up actually getting torn out in 2017, which left us searching for a new vineyard. And unfortunately, that particular year, we weren't able to find any Riesling available that was kind of to the standard and quality that we were looking for. So we didn't make any Riesling in 2017. 2018, however, into that spring, we ended up tracking down this vineyard site, which is off of Stewart Skaggs Point Road, up just outside of Lake Sonoma, so northern Dry Creek Valley. Some place that I never expected to find Riesling, but boom, there you have it. And one of the main qualifications that we look for, especially when we're searching for good Riesling grapes to utilize, is that we want to make sure that the wines coming off that property don't get too tropical, they don't get too austere, too acidic. We wanted to have a really nice balance. The influence for this wine is still definitely those amazing Alsatian white wines. Obviously those can be very minerally and even very austere. So we want to temper that a little bit with that nice warm kind of California climate that we get out here. And that really is exemplified in this because at the elevation that it's at, it's a little over 1,000 feet of elevation, it sits above the inversion layer. So you see those cool clouds kind of roll in from the coast and they just settle below this vineyard and you're sitting above them. So it's a little bit warmer at night as a result, as that happens, but it also stays a little cooler during the day. It doesn't get quite as hot up there as it does as you get down, a little further south into Dry Creek. So it ended up being this really nice, kind of temperate, very consistent climate for it. And in 2018, when we pulled the trigger and decided to harvest these grapes, it was September 26th, and it was the wildest night of harvest that I think I've had in a long time, if not ever, because we were starting our Merlot pick that same night, oddly enough. That harvest was starting at 11 p.m. The Riesling was starting at 3 a.m. and we had a little bit of Pinot coming in later that morning at about 6 o'clock in the morning. So I was in a flatbed truck driving between here from St. Helena to Dry Creek, back to St. Helena, out to Bennett Valley, back to St. Helena, through the course of the night to get all of our grapes in basically all at the same time. It was a little crazy. Now the good news with the Riesling is that this one is relatively easy to work with. It goes directly into a press. We get all the skins and seeds and stems all out of there, squeeze all that juice out, and it goes right into some stainless steel barrels, usually a barrel or two of neutral oak as well for fermentation, and we just let it rip. That fermentation will last anywhere from about a month to month and a half, depending on how quickly it ticks along. And that's just how much time it needs to kind of eat up all that little bit of sugar and thing that's in there and really get it to be a nice, true, dry style Riesling. And that's the trick, is to let that sugar all get, as much as you can, get eaten up by the yeast that's in there. That's what allows us to get this a little bit drier, a little bit more crisp and refreshing, and kind of move away from those sweeter style Rieslings that a lot of folks are familiar with. Now, characteristically with this, early on, it doesn't smell, even necessarily taste like your prototypical Riesling. It doesn't have that kind of really geeky, petrol-y or like oily kind of nose to it. It's a little bit more fruit-driven. You get everything from kind of your lemon peel and citrusy notes. You do every once in a while pick up a little bit more of a like an underripe peach kind of stone fruit things, because it doesn't get too far towards that tropical or really rich style, which is something I really do love about this particular wine. And the stainless steel really helps kind of maintain those nice bright characteristics. And the about 20% neutral oak barrels, a barrel that has been used multiple times, so it's not imparting any oaky characteristics, it's just a great storage container. That will help the wine oxidize a little bit, also fattens it up a touch, allows that mid-palate to kind of just get a little bit more depth, a little more complexity, just adds this nice little wave of flavor to the wine that you wouldn't get if you were just using exclusively stainless steel. And it is for our first shot at making Riesling from this new vineyard site. I was incredibly happy with the way it turned out. Very low maintenance as it turned out. It didn't cause a lot of stress as we were making it. And the flavors and characteristics that we really have come to enjoy from our Rieslings of the past really just were heightened in this particular release. Very, very excited to see them kind of carry through as our wine style and into a new vineyard site, even though it does have some slightly different characteristics than that previous one. It does have that very nice, refreshing kind of zing to it. You know, I always describe this wine as it's our front porch, our front patio, or back patio wine. It's what we use when we're just kind of chilling. It's a nice kind of warm afternoon, kicking back, relaxing. It is meant to be that wine where you just need a good glass of something refreshing and you can just dive right into it. And as an added bonus though, if you need something just to extend outside of the cocktail hour, you throw this up against any number of food pairings, it does just fine. Your classic, white wine or really crisp white wine with seafood works. You can even throw this up with some pasta dishes, with more of a kind of a white or cream sauce. I could go on and on. Basically, this is in essence one of our kind of Swiss Army knife kind of wines where we want it to be very approachable in a lot of different situations, which is why we make it as we do, a nice crisp, clean, refreshing style with enough body to kind of carry it through. Definitely one of my favorite wines to make because it is something different. You don't normally see a lot of Riesling out here between Napa or Sonoma these days, and it's coming from an area, Dry Creek Valley, that you wouldn't normally think of Riesling for. It's kind of this, it's a little bit of the unicorn wine in that sense. You wouldn't normally expect something of this style, this variety from that particular spot, but it's a really fun one to make. So hope you have enjoyed it. If not, please check out our website for the 2018 or our current release. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.